Right, so we're going to be taking out the RAM and the CMOS battery on this HP laptop. So first we're going to flip it over, and we're going to look down here, and there's this little icon of a RAM symbol on the middle thing. So we're just going to simply unscrew it. It's just a small Phillips head. So we're going to go ahead, screw it. This is the first RAM. There's another slot that sits behind this under the keyboard. We'll go in a minute. So we'll simply pull this out, put this here, and we'll just reassemble this now. Same process, make sure all the pins are on the side, and then screw back in. And then for the keyboard, there are a couple screws with the keyboard icon. So we'll start on the right here. Take this screw out. And they are captive, so they'll stay in. They don't actually come out. You just have to unscrew them. And there's another one here in the middle. Screw that. And then there's another third one over here in the corner. And those are the only screws you have to touch. And they all have a little keyboard with an arrow pointing towards it. So we're gonna make sure we got all the screws undone. Flip it over, open it up, and there'll be these little locking pins on the side. You can't get it out without these locking pins. So what you're gonna have to do is push it back like this, right? We're gonna reverse the step when we reassemble it. We're gonna unlock them all. There's 4 in total on the top. We're gonna delicately pull this out because there is a ribbon cable under it, and the ribbon cable can be quite delicate. And now, these ones are a little bit weird. A lot of them, they lock horizontally, but these ones actually lock vertically. So you're gonna have to pull up on the connectors to disconnect the connector. So we're gonna have to get this one. This one's a little bit trickier. Got one side, and then you should be able to just easily wiggle it out. There's 2 in total, one smaller one and one bigger one. And here we're gonna have our RAM and our CMOS battery. So we're just gonna pull the RAM out, set it aside with our other one. And then we also have our CMOS battery here, which is just held in by this little connector here. Pull that out, and then it's kind of in this little cubby here. You're just gonna wanna wiggle it. Try not to pull too hard on the wire, you might break it. So we're just gonna wiggle this out of this cubby, set that right there. We're gonna reassemble it with everything on it. So this is the tricky part. You're gonna wanna try to pull these up a bit before you put it in. And you're gonna wanna get down here. This can be a little bit difficult. I'm gonna start with the smaller one since that one's a little bit harder. All right. I'm gonna close it once I have it so it doesn't actually come out when I put the other one in. And I'm gonna take the other one, close it in, and push down on the black connector. Hear a little click. It's all good. And then it's got these grooves on the side which slide down into here first. And it'll lay flush, and then remember to lock it here. All 4 are locked, and then it'd be as simple as screwing back in the 3 screws on the back. And then of course after this we'll do the same step and then reinstall it. So we've just removed the back cover, unscrewed that, removed the RAM there, taken the keyboard screws off, gone to the front, taken the clips out, and removed the RAM and CMOS battery, and we're all good. It's all reassembled now, obviously without the parts on the side. So we'll just go the other way around. We'll open up this with the RAM icon. Open that. We'll use the same one. And it's gonna have this tooth here on the side. And they're pretty easy. I should have gone in depth about how to get them out, but they're quite easy. So they kind of go in at an angle. So you're gonna push it in like this, and then there's these clips that you just push it down. Oh, I got it in all the way. There we go. It shouldn't show any of the contacts there. You'll push it down, you'll hear that click. And to take it out, you just pull them away and it'll pop up. Quite simple. And you can't actually insert it the wrong way because it's keyed to only go in one direction. And then make sure it helps to get all the little clips on the side in, or it won't sit flush when you screw it in. So we'll just screw that back in. Then we'll move on to the keyboard, the same 3 sets of screws with the icon. 2, 3. All good here. Flip it back around. Open it up. And we'll undo the clips again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pop it up again. Remember to watch for the cables. Technically, you could do this without removing the cables. I would probably do it anyway because the cables aren't too hard to remove, and you'd rather just do it careful instead of accidentally pulling the cables, and then you got a much bigger problem on your hand. Wiggle these out here. Set that to the side. And then for the CMOS battery, again, it only goes in one way, so you don't get the first time. You can always just try again. You won't break. You'd have to be pretty hard pressed to break it. And to get it back in, it's a little bit of the same process. You kind of have to get in the middle and then wiggle it back into that little corner there. And then for the RAM, it's the same process here. You'll see where the tooth is there, and you'll line that up there. Push it in all the way, and then just simply push it back. Hear that little snap sound. Then we will go ahead, take our keyboard. Again, make sure that these are up. These are a little bit weird. You have to push them up, and then start with the smaller one again, because that one's a little bit more finicky. Get it down there. They have a little piece of like firmer blue tape on the back that gives you a little bit more help in caressing the cable back into its connector. Makes it a little bit more firmer. And look at the bigger one. For a good connection, you shouldn't have any of the gold contacts showing above the connector. But this would be pretty simple to rectify if you plugged it in your keyboard network. You can always, so easy again. The bottom, just gonna slide it in there. Make sure it's all good. Lock it in. And then it's as simple as going to the back and redoing our 3 screws. 1, 2, 3. And of course they're all marked, so it's pretty hard to find the wrong one. And we are done.